Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Happiness Chat. There's a famous saying, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. But if you want happiness for a lifetime, help somebody. For centuries, the greatest thinkers have suggested the same thing. Happiness is found in helping others. There's some quotes that are worth mentioning here. Saint Francis of Assisi said, "For it is in giving that we receive." Sir Winston Churchill remarked, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." The very pretty Goldie Hawn says, "Giving back is as good for you as it is for the person who is receiving it, because giving gives you a purpose. When you have a purpose-driven life, you are a happier person." We all need incentives, so here it is. The incentive to doing good for others is it makes you happier. Helping others could very well be one of the best things you can do for yourself. It turns out that being of service, volunteering to help an organization, or helping a friend or a colleague not only makes you feel good, it is good for you. In case the quotations above did not convince you, here's the scientific part. Being a lawyer, I like evidence. Endorphins, that wonderful brain chemical, gets produced when you're out there doing the 3 mile run. It is what puts you into a state that the athletes refer to as the runner's high. Well, you can experience a similar feeling without busting a lung when you give someone a helping hand. It's called the helper's high, a euphoria that happens when you do charitable deeds. The psychological theory being that giving acts of kindness produce a natural mild version of a morphine high. The release of endorphins is followed
Shilpa has been muted.
by.
You will have to, I don't know how you got muted, but we lost you towards the end.
Okay, I'll repeat it from the scientific part because that's my favorite part. Okay. So, in case the quotations above did not convince you, here's the scientific part. Being a lawyer, I like evidence. Endorphins, that wonderful brain chemical, gets produced when you're out there doing the 3 mile run. It is what puts you into a state that the athletes refer to as the runner's high. Well, you could experience a similar feeling without busting a lung when you give someone a helping hand. It's called a helper's high, a euphoria that happens when you do charitable deeds. The psychological theory being that giving acts of kindness produce a natural version of a morphine high. The release of endorphins is followed by long-lasting period of emotional well-being and a sense of self-worth. Feelings that in turn reduce the stress and improve the overall health of the helper. Help can come in any shape, any size, big or small. The size or the amount of help is not the point in question. What is important is the gesture of genuinely wanting to help, emphasis being on the genuine part. Giving help has strong association with mental health. We cannot emphasize enough how important mental health is. Studies have shown that volunteers have fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety because their good work distracts them from dwelling on their own problems and makes them grateful for what they have. Volunteering also helps to maintain cognitive functioning in older people. Amongst teenagers, it is associated with improved self esteem, reduction in antisocial behavior, and increased educational achievement. It is human nature to ask why. Why should I do this? I hope with the scientific data and studies, I have managed to make a case that helping others will make you happy. True happiness is not attained through self gratification, but through fidelity to a worthy cause, said Helen Keller. Our guest speaker today believes that true happiness comes from making others happy. Her biodata, if I had to read out, would take away half the time of this session. Not being competent to edit it, I requested her for one line, to which she humbly answered, an educator who believes in inclusive education and a disability rights activist. From JNU to Geneva to Washington, from WHO, UNICEF to the local NGOs, she has added value to every assignment she has undertaken. It is an honor to have Dr. Saroj Thapa with us today. She's married to Mr. Venu Rajamani, who is currently the ambassador of India to the Netherlands. Saroj, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to reconnect with you, Shilpa.
Thank you.
And to meet all the lovely friends that who are here on this platform.
They're all here because of you, Saroj.
I don't kid myself that, but it's nice to reconnect and also to rediscover old ties with Dubai. And I know this is how it happened, right? We met in Dubai 12, 13 years ago. You had come to present your book to my husband in his office. And he said, you have to meet my wife and the family. And then you came home. And that's how we met. And we read your book. I say we because not just me. My mother was at that time going through, her struggle with cancer. She was battling cancer at that time. And she too read your book and was so inspired by it. And she wanted to meet you too. And so if you remember, she was also there in that first meeting with us. And so it helped her in lots of ways. And it helped all of us to realize that, not to give up, how to keep fighting, persevere on, resilience, and to keep a smiling face. Always take pleasures from life and always be cheerful about it and never say die. And that's something that you personify, Shilpa. And I think you inspire a lot of people in that sense.
Thank you, Saroj. Thank you so much for your kind words. So now we want to hear about your journey, starting from the DNU days, and tell us what inspired you to get into this particular field of education.
That's a long, story to tell. When I came to JNU, I actually was passionate about history. I came to study history. So I did my MA and then I did my MPhil in history from JNU. That's where I met Venu, who was doing his international studies. And so then, that's how the course of my life changed, because I wanted to be an academic. I wanted to be a historian. But then we decided to get married and Venu got into the Foreign Service. And then we started, traveling from place to place, from one posting to the other. And it wasn't very easy for me to keep track, just stay focused and being a historian and focusing on, at that time I was working on medieval Indian history and all that. So I found it very difficult to keep going on with that. And so I started teaching. And it was in Beijing that, it was a small school. It was a primary school that the Indian embassy used to run there. At that time, this was a school, very special school, because in the 70s, when the Cultural Revolution happened in China, the Chinese government overnight closed all the convent schools or the schools run by foreigners. And so suddenly the children had nowhere to go. And only the Chinese schools would continue. And so at that time, the Indian embassy, the ambassador and his wife got all the officers together and said, what do we do for our children? And all the wives volunteered. So the ambassador's wife became the principal. All the wives of the officers became the teachers. And all the children from the embassy started coming to the school. And so started the Indian Embassy School in Beijing. And soon what happened was other embassies who were also in the same predicament started requesting our ambassador to allow their children to come over. So then they started a school which when we reached Beijing had about 20 different nationalities. And it was a school where it was Of course, we were not charging hardly any fee. We were charging hardly any fee. So it became very affordable for all children to come. So we had a very vibrant little school. And so there I was, after having taught at the university level, I was there teaching grade 4. And then, but it was a small school, so we would sort of get to know all the children. And so we found there was one little kid who just wouldn't learn. And everybody said, okay, maybe you don't know the technique. I will teach this child. So this child was about 3, 4 years old, who couldn't say A, B, C, D. If you taught him the whole day, this is what A looks like, and you call it A, makes the sound A. You ask him the next moment, he would say S or T or whatever came to his head. And he couldn't make that connect between the symbol and the sound. And so he was passed on from teacher to teacher to teacher, and we decided he doesn't learn, right? He can't learn. He's the Buddha of the school. And at that time, because Beijing being at that time, I'm talking of the late 90s, um, people, other ambassadors' wives would also come by and say, oh, can I help you? A Sri Lankan ambassador's wife came there, and she said, what's the matter, etc. We explained to her, and she said, do you mind if I have a go at this child? We said, please go ahead. All the trained teachers haven't been able to be successful, right? And so she took this child and started doing something in the school library. And within a month, we started seeing a difference. And this child was actually learning. And so we were all amazed. What did you do? The child soon started saying CAT cat and BAT bat and, stuff like that. And he was making progress. So we said, are you a trained teacher? Do you know some magic technique? So at that time, and she says, no, but she had a son who had cerebral palsy. And so she had watched therapists, special educators work with him. And she had learned some technique which she was applying with this kid. And her son was now quite grown up. And he even came when we were there. He even came and actually did his art exhibition, held his art exhibition. We were very, very surprised and pleasantly, surprised to know that he was so able. But he had also had similar beginning. And so that kind of made me interested that here is something that I don't know. And so when we came back to Delhi, I felt that I needed to explore. I went to the Spastic Society of Northern India, and then I enrolled for a course called the Education for the Physically and Neurologically Impaired. And I did that intensive course. I'm sure there are many others who have done it too, who would realize that our feedback was, this should be 2 years course. It's not, it's not a 1-year course. It was so intensive and so draining, but you learned so much. And so when I did that, I really learned how to, work with children with special needs. And that really got my interest. And then I started working there. Then that was the time in 95 when we were all working for the Equal Opportunities Bill for the people with disability. And so we were campaigning, we were going advocating, and then finally that bill got passed in 96, December of 96. And that was a real high. And that's how my journey began in this area. And then we got posted to Geneva. And so when Benu was working in the UN, in our permanent mission to the UN, I was working with WHO in this field of mental health and sort of amelioration of disabilities in early childhood by giving psychosocial stimulation and that kind of thing. So when I started doing a lot of research for WHO as to do the papers and all, I started going to the university. And when I was interacting with the professors there, they said, since you're already doing so much work, why don't you convert it into your PhD? Well, I said, this is not my field. I've been a historian. But then because I'd done a B.Ed and because I'd done this course with the Spastic Society of Northern India, they say, and because I'd done my MPhil, they said, we will sort of grant you that special entry into the College of, this is called a Department of Psychology and Education. And that's where I started doing my PhD. And I also started working in a school in Geneva. And there's been no looking back. After that, wherever we have gone, wherever my husband has been posted, I have continued to work in this field and sort of built up some expertise, which has helped me to be of service to others. So that's a long story, huh?
Oh, but it's been such an amazing journey. I mean, what all you've done, just phenomenal. So I'm going to ask you this question, which we had a very nice discussion in our first session on what happiness means to each one of us. So I would like to ask you the same question. What does happiness mean to you? What makes you happy?
So, like everybody else, when you are a student, you think, oh, if I get good grades, it'll make me happy. Or when you are um, in the job market, you say, I have to get a good job, which pays me a lot of money, and that will make me happy. And so you start experimenting, and does this really make you happy? You get good grades, but then after a while, you get used to the good grades. Or on the other hand, if you get bad grades, you say, what the hell, it doesn't matter. I'll work harder next time. So, it's not, it doesn't have that lasting impact. Like you said in the beginning, if you want to have happiness for an hour, have a good nap. Or for a day, sorry, what was that?
Go fishing.
Go fishing. Yeah. So you can do these little things which give you happiness, but that's not a lasting happiness or a sense of satisfaction, or it doesn't have that kind of impact. And so, and you already said it, you quoted Dalai Lama. That's something that I really believe in, that if you want to be happy, you make others happy. Your true happiness comes from helping others. And if you can be that helping hand, truly it makes you happy. It's a more lasting sense of happiness. But I would also take it to a little deeper level. Lot of unhappiness also comes from our expectations of ourselves and of others. And that expectation is what makes us unhappy, right? You don't live up to my expectation. You are a friend of mine. Why didn't you do this? Or you are my son. Why didn't you, do what I thought you should be doing? If I'm unwell or if I'm depressed, you are not by my side because I expect you to be there and you are not there. I am unhappy. So if we can cut out that expectation from others, I think that it requires a lot of practice and a lot of persistence. But I think that is something so true. Every time I've been disappointed, every time that has made me unhappy, I've tried to reason it out and say, what has made me unhappy? What has led to this is because of my expectation of others or of myself. So this expectation is the reason for unhappiness. Therefore, try and not to have that expectation. Do what you need to do selflessly, do with your whole heart, but don't expect that others will do the same for you. You have to do it, without any, without any, what do you say, expectation. I mean, you come back to the expectation
Really?
without feeling that they will do the same for you.
Absolutely. You said it so well. My God. In fact, Saroj, I have to tell you, it was a no-brainer for me when I was thinking of this topic. Happiness comes from doing things for others. The first person that came to my mind was you. And I was hoping that you would be free to join us, and I was absolutely delighted when you said, yes, you will join us, because I have seen you do things for others. And I think of the little things that I do, and it gives me happiness. And I'm just trying to fathom the level of happiness and satisfaction it must be giving you with the phenomenal work that you do.
Um, you call it phenomenal work. This the work with Sati in Dubai. Um, it just happened. I didn't plan for it. There was a need in the community that they needed a platform. That we needed a platform for people with disability, families that had children with disability, professionals who worked in the field of disability, and all the volunteers who wanted to do something for persons with disability. They needed to come together. There's different things happening in small pockets, but there was not a common platform that could bring everyone together. And so when some people approached, it was what I felt was it was the need of the community. And then I didn't have to do much. There were volunteers who were willing to come in and pitch in. And so we just got everyone together. And that was 2008 and 2009.
Yes.
I have to tell you, we went through a lot of brainstorming sessions. What should we do? How should we do it? Who should be involved? What should the activities be? And we put a team together. And finally, it was launched on the 12th of June in 2009, an organization called Sati. It was for awareness raising for disability and to ensure that people with disability also were included in all the activities in the society. And this, we all worked very hard. In 2009, 2010, I left in 2011, but the others kept the work going. And again, it's out of the blue when the current committee that's running it approached me saying, we have to do our decade celebration. And you are the founding patron and the president of this organization. I tell you, that really gave me true happiness. That this is working, this is continuing to help people. There were so many parents who were involved in these Zoom celebrations that we had, several sessions. So, this is something you light a fire and the fire takes off. You don't have to do much, but the others continue to sort of take the work forward. That was something that, yes.
Yes, truly amazing. Truly amazing.
And then
so now we come down from sky high to ground level. That is from Saroj to me. I was never a running around kind of a kid. My favorite game till today remains Scrabble. I figured out pretty early in my life I was not going to get the runner's high. So my best bet would be a helper's high. I noticed when I was doing research on happiness is found in helping others, there were words like charity, charitable, volunteering everywhere. Since there were studies, I asked ChatGPT to replace the words. But now we are done with the research, we are done with the quotations, so we can chat. Personally, to me, I feel charity as a word nowadays, thanks to the media also, just sounds very heavy steady. We think we're not Bill Gates, we don't have millions to donate, or I have so many issues, I cannot volunteer. I've got health problems, I've got a very demanding job, I've got small kids, I simply can't. I want to share with you two incidents in which I got much happiness in helping the other person, and I did no charitable deed as such. The first one was on my last flight from Delhi to Dubai. Yes, in the days when we used to fly. There was this lady sitting next to me who seemed very conscious of herself. She had a nervous energy around her. When the air hostess started to serve food, she was asked veg or non-veg. She fumbled to answer. So I asked her in Hindi and she replied. I could make out she was very hungry, just looking at the speed at which she was eating. We got talking after dinner, told me she left her village very early in the morning and she'd not eaten anything ever since. So I asked her if she was still hungry. She just answered with a weak smile. I requested the air hostess to get an extra meal. It was deeply satisfying to watch a hungry person relish a meal. But the best part was her departing remark to me as though blessing me. She said, I wish the household where I'm going to work is as nice as you are. The point of this little story is that to help someone, it doesn't take money, time, effort. It didn't cost me anything. But her face and this incident remains fresh in my mind, and it reaffirms my faith that we can always do a good deed. The emotional benefits are immense. I promise you that. The second one was a meeting with a client who was starting her divorce proceedings. I didn't know her at all. She was referred by a mutual friend. She came over to my house for the meeting and she looked extremely distressed. My only contribution during the 1 hour meeting was passing her tissue papers to wipe her tears. That's it. I did nothing else. I could make out when she had finished narrating her story, she seemed calmer. I didn't give her any legal advice because I realized she didn't want any advice. She simply wanted to vent out her feelings. Sometimes it's easier to do it with a stranger because friends and families tend to sermonize. When she was leaving, she said, "Can I give you a hug?" She thanked me and she said she's not felt this light, relieved, or happy in months. The point I'm making is we can always do something good for someone. What we need is the genuine intention and the gesture to want to help. I'm sure all of us have done something big or small to help others. So would any one of you like to share such incident where you've helped somebody and it has given you a sense of joy? Natasha, Sonia.
Yeah, you can just unmute yourself.
Hi. So I'll just jump into it. Firstly, Saroj, I want to tell you that my best friend is Madhumati Bose, who
Oh,
spoke very, very highly of you. So it's wonderful to see you now. um,
wonderful. Know her well.
so I come from the line of coaching, and there have been many such incidents where I felt very fulfilled. But there's one which stands out, a specific incident, particularly in the light of what's going on these days with depression and people taking their lives. The year was 2000, and I was facilitating a session for some young leaders. And after I completed a session, there was one very lovely looking young girl, and she comes up to me with a note. I opened that note and it read, "Dear Sonia, the ease and comfort with which you share your life stories has inspired me to share something I've bottled up inside me for last 4 years. Can I share it?" I said, "Of course, sure. Let's give her a name, Anu." I said, "Sure, Anu." And I told the group, Anu wants to share something. Instantly, I noticed the expressions on people's faces. They were like, raising their brows, and I heard words like arrogant, attitude, and all of that. Anyway, Anu started speaking, and she said, "My dream was coming true. I was going to marry my childhood sweetheart, and he was in the US for a job interview, and our beautiful future was going to begin." So, like a typical Punjabi household, she had henna in her hands, and there was music, and there was TV and news going on, and her grandmother wanted to watch the news. As they watched the news, she saw the Twin Towers crumble. And she said, "I knew my world was over." I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I went into a cocoon, I withdrew, I built this wall around me. I didn't want to connect with anyone. I just internalized everything. But today, after hearing your stories, I just want to share this. I know you people think differently about me, but this is what had happened. I watched the other people around and they were inconsolably howling, all her colleagues, and they were angry at themselves, thinking that how we jumped to conclusions about people, how we labeled her, how we judged her. She was just a soul which was wanting to be understood, wanting to be reached out to. So I really didn't go with the thing of helping. All I did was I was my open, vulnerable, transparent self. So as Shilpa said, we can always do something. It just needs to come from a genuine place of wanting to help. That scenario, it's been 15 years, but it's still so alive. It still gives me goosebumps that she finally got that embrace she needed. And she got a home, she got support, she got understanding. Today, when I see these young lives going, I shudder to think what she would have done had it continued. So thank you, Shilpa. And your stories was one of the stories, by the way, that I shared with her. So probably that made all the difference. Thank you.
My God, Sonia, I've got goosebumps. I cannot even imagine that girl's state. And I want to tell you something that you do such great work in motivating people. You make a difference in so many people's lives and you bring about positive changes. I mean, I do such little stuff and it gives me so much happiness. So, hats off to you. Thank you so much for sharing. I think the beauty about happiness is it can come from anywhere. It's just the desire and the intent to do it. You know, I love it. It's a small thing, a big thing, whatever we can do. But we shouldn't get overwhelmed by, oh my God, charity. It just involves so much of money or, volunteering. I cannot sweat it out so much on the field. There are so many things that we can do. I think we just need to concentrate on what we can do and not be overwhelmed by what we cannot do. So
Sure.
thank you so much. Who else would like to share any such incident?
Nandita would like to share. You can
Oh,
just
please.
unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Nandita this side.
Hello.
And in these times of COVID 19, I live in an apartment. And so we were told that, and I fortunately have a full time helper with me. So, who's been with me for the past 13 years. So, in the apartment, a request was sent that as we have many old couples and people who are not able to make their food and all themselves because the maids were not coming, could anyone volunteer to help? So I had a talk with my maid and I said, yes, I can help. So I am in an 8 hour and there were two families over there. One is an old uncle auntie couple, they are 80 plus, and one is a lady who is around 60, but she has some lung problem, so she finds it difficult to cook. So I volunteered and I said, okay, I will send you the meals. So, and I said, because this is due to pandemic, it's not good to be a party. So whatever is cooked, even if it is khichdi will come to you. I'm not going to go out of my way. So uncle and auntie were very happy. Though the lady was a little disappointed because she expected spicy fried khana. I said, number one, I don't eat that, so I won't send that also. But when it was a pav bhaji, she liked it very much. On other days, when I told her that it is sabzi and dal, she would say, nahi, aaj rehne do. So this old couple I want to talk about, they I don't know the amount of blessings that my maid and I have got. So till 2 months, they were taking the food from me. And after 2 months, I found that uncle on my door with folded hands and saying, Beta ji, बहुत आभार तुम्हारा, अब और नहीं. तो मैंने बोला, why uncle, क्या हो गया? नहीं बेटा, मेरे को ना ऐसे सपने में लगता है कि अब थोड़ा बहुत कुकिंग मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. And I said, look, for me, it's not a problem. I'm cooking for myself. I just to make two chapatis for you, it's not a big deal. So he said, नहीं, हाँ, but आप कभी भी कुछ अच्छा extra special बनाओगे तो भेज देना. So I said, I make special every day. So he said, no. So generally I do, if I make a dosa or something or a pav bhaji, I send it across. The way he's gone and spoken to people, he's written it on his Facebook page also. And I said, no, uncle, I don't want anything else. Just keep your hand on my head. That's what it is. So in this time, this gave me a lot of happiness, going a little bit out of my way to give a little pleasure to them. That's it.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Really. I mean, just these gestures. I mean, you fed somebody. I mean, it's amazing. Uh, there are all these things that we can do. I feel there's so many opportunities around to help. We just have to open our eyes, open our heart, and it's all there. And the amount of benefits that we get, the amount of happiness and satisfaction that we get is actually hard to measure. And I'm sure for weeks and months, you will keep feeling the blessings of that uncle. So God bless you. Thank you. Who else would like to share with us? Priya Khanna.
You can unmute yourself, and then after that, Paramjeet ji.
Hi. I've been hearing such interesting tales. Even I thought of one. One forgets, and I'm very happy that when you do something good, you forget about it and you really can't recall. So, though your question was so simple, while hearing it, I was trying to think about uh, something that brought happiness on somebody else, which was a selfless act. We always try and do something for others, which will make us happy because we expect something in return. So actually, it was quite difficult for me to think of one situation where I did something selflessly, which I remember. But having said that, my husband and me were in England on a holiday, and we were staying at some relative's house in Surrey, which is a very secluded railway station. And one evening when we disembarked from the train and we were on the platform, this lady got off the train with us. And she was a little punkish kind of a woman, but she was extremely drunk, very drunk. And so she came and she started walking, and we could see that her walk was very wobbly. It was interesting, but we were in a strange country in a very spooky railway station. We didn't want to do anything. We didn't see. We said, let's just walk and let her fall for all we care. But I don't know, some instinct in my husband, he just said that, I think she needs help. And I said, are you serious? I mean, she's drunk. She's out of her mind. He said, well, I can't let her be. She's going to fall. And she fell. And when she fell, her bag opened and everything. And he just told me, he said, this is not happening when I can see it. So we carried her, literally, we put all her belongings and we went out of the railway station, and we hailed a cab for her. And we told the guy, just take her to this address that we found in her. He said, well, I'm not doing that. You don't know. I'm going to get into a mess and blah, blah, blah. And you do it yourself. So that time I again told my husband that let's get out of here. That's all we could do, put her in a cab. He said, no, we are taking her home. Wow. And I said, but I don't know where she stays. He said, no, wherever she stays, she's in England. And I know that, of course, things are expensive and taxis were expensive. And we drove about 45 minutes in the cab to the address. We rang the bell. Her aunt or somebody full, and that woman was sozzled, but I just left my card with a number that I just said, I'm just so happy that my husband didn't go inside because he was reluctant. I went inside, I made sure she was all right, it was the right address, and I just left it. And I said, okay, good deed done for the day, she's back home. But I came back very, very scared that in case the cops come after me, or she's a drug dealer or something, anything can happen. And the whole night we were quite edgy. And the next morning she called up and she said, you can't imagine, maybe you were sent and she had some massive fight in some bar or something and she got drunk. She said, if it wasn't for you, I'd be on the railway station drunk. Somebody would have just maybe raped me or left me or robbed me. But I don't even know. And we spent a bomb on forget about all that, even in the taxi. But everything paid off when I just got to know she was howling on the phone, just expressing her gratitude. So I felt really good that, I could just do that in a strange land that was not India, and, rules are different, everything was different. But yeah, it just gives me, and strangely, we are now friends on Facebook and we keep in touch. And that one incident has, I have a friend in England. I have a friend in Surrey now, if I have to go back. So yeah, that was very interesting. This memory stays with me. So that was it.
That's beautiful. I don't think it's a small deed or a good deed. I think you were sent like angels. I mean, for her. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And this reminds me, Priya, of all the research that I was doing, that feeling of, euphoria that you get, and the long-lasting emotional benefits that you get from happiness, from doing something for others. I think this is what I feel sometimes, that I'm selfish in making others happy because I know that it will make me happy. So I'm actually gathering happiness for myself. But it's a kind of a win-win situation, that you're helping someone, that person is happy, and like this incident, it remains in your mind. So look at long-lasting effect, that is given. I mean, truly hats off to you in a foreign land.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Who else?
Paramjeet Singh, can you just unmute yourself? Yeah.
Thank you very much, first of all, to be in the session. And as everybody was saying, charity. I think charity doesn't mean only money. If you are listening to someone, you're giving some time to someone, you are spending time with people who are not able to stand by themselves. And you have a lot of opportunity in life to be with them. And I had been doing volunteering and other things from last 20 years, 25 years now. Got a lot of chances to be with people. If you are willing to do something for others, you always get a chance. You always on the edge, somebody will be there and you will be at the right time there to be helpful to them. And but this one incident I will share. Of course, daily there are a lot of incidents. So I was traveling back from my office. I live in Sharjah. My office is just 1 kilometer. So on the way, I took a turn towards the city center, Sharjah. My home is there. I saw there was a gentleman only in dhoti and child in hand, child in the lap, and he said, my child has died. He got a current, and nobody is taking me to the hospital. So taxi people were not stopping. So I thought, why? I don't know why these taxi people are not stopping, or I was not knowing much about that there are some rules in the UAE which we must follow, call the ambulance. So he was really weeping, and the child was also like, I think maybe 2 years old or 2.5 year old. So I said, okay, you come in my car. I will take you to the hospital. So they said, no. People said, no, don't take. So I remember there's always an ambulance in the city center, Sharjah. So I said, no problem. I'll go to city center, Sharjah parking. In the parking, they are always having an ambulance. I checked with the security guard. He said, no, it has gone to some other place. It will come after half an hour. So you can wait in the front of the city center, Sharjah. And once they will come, we will send it to them. I stayed for 2 minutes. And this gentleman was weeping. My child is died. I don't have, and so really, I was afraid also, but if the child died in your car, you are really going to have a big problems. So this security man again told me, uncle, don't go, please don't go yourself. I said, no, I think I have to go. There's no way that I can leave this child and this gentleman here. So it took me about, I think 10 minutes. It was raining that day, about 10 minutes to Kasmi hospital. And in between, I was talking to the gentleman. No, she's okay. He was telling, I went to India, I went to pilgrimage, I went to all these things. Now my child is having this. I said, don't worry, God is great. Just wait. So I think before Kasmi hospital, I was touching the child's feet with one hand, driving with one hand. And I put my finger in the child's mouth just to see that if the child is okay or not. And she pressed my finger with the teeth. Oh my God, that was a very big relief for me. And I told that gentleman, I said, your child is okay, don't worry. So I parked in front of the Kasmi hospital emergency. And I said, you go inside. He was just in dhoti, not even any upper cloth. He said, I can't go inside. I said, you just go, I'm coming. I just park the vehicle and I come back. Just wait. Don't worry. They will not tell anything to you. He said, I don't have money also. I said, don't worry, you just go inside. So I parked the vehicle. By the time I came, they said, why you want? What do you want? I said, that the girl, small girl. They said, she's out of danger now. Just by the time I came from the parking, they said, she's out of danger now. There's no problem. I said, I want to meet the father. So that he saw me and he came out. He said, okay. So sir, thank you very much. I said, you telling no money, so what to do? He said, no, I will call my friend, give you a mobile. I will call 2-3 friends and I will call them. Don't worry, you please go. No problem. So, and I said, he'll give me your phone number. In the evening, he called me and he said, I'm going to India. And I think she's right, but I want to check her better in India. I forget the incident. And after about 2 to 3 months, I was in a shop. And this one gentleman patted at my back. He said, sir, can you recognize that the child bald? And I saw it. I think I know you somewhere. He said that day you put into hospital. We couldn't even thank you because I was in so much of trouble and Tara Mother, it's very difficult. So now please come to my home and have food with me. I came to know he's staying near to me only. So it was really, little I shared with people. They said you shouldn't have done it because there's a rule in Dubai to call the ambulance. I said, that's okay. I thought, what will happen? Maximum, okay, we will. I think police will also understand that I was just taking care of the child.
Right.
So this is really, it was beyond my expectation that day. Thank you for
No,
listening.
but I
Everyone.
mean, what you've done is not just a act or a act of kindness. You've saved a life. I mean, there's nothing bigger than that. So truly hats off to you, because in spite of the rules, in spite of everything, how grim the situation was, you took charge of it. Uh, you were absolutely God sent for those people. So thank you so much for sharing. And I love the way you started it when you said that charity does not mean just giving money. Sometimes just listening to a person. That's all the person wants. When you said that, I got reminded, of my nani. She would sometimes start feeling low. So I would go from Delhi to Bombay, and my only mission was to cheer her up, make her laugh, and crack the silliest of jokes. But she would laugh, and sometimes she'd be holding her stomach, saying, "Oh God, my stomach has started paining. You're making me laugh so much." But I am so happy I did it, because it's been now years she's left us. But those memories, they stay with you, and the happiness that you get from those, it's just so phenomenal that nothing replaces it. It is just an act of kindness. And I so resonate with all the research that I do, that the feeling of euphoria stays with you. I mean, the people have left the planet, but the feeling and the happiness still remains with us. So I think we just have to look around. There's so much we can do, because we all have goodness inside us. We just need to like get out of our own, like, I can't do this, I can't do this, because there's still so much we can do. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share with us?
Nandita would like to share. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah. Hi, Shilpa.
Hi.
It's been so nice listening to all the stories. I'd also like to share, I mean, no great incident or anything, but I think we all must be doing such little acts of kindness in our lives, and we don't even know, that we're doing it. I don't have a great story to share, but it's with my in-laws. In the last few years, they were very ill, and my mother-in-law had dementia, so she couldn't even eat on her own. So it was left up to me, since my husband was not here, he was posted elsewhere. I had to feed her, put a bite in her mouth like little kid, like I used to feed my boys, feed her evening, because she used to take the food, and then she used to say that, what do I do? Kya karu? Then I tell her, bite, take it in, take it in. It was, like, even though the maid was there, but before she could trust the maid, I had to get her to trust me and then trust the maid, Also the evening walks, take her for a walk every evening at 6:30 in the garden, so that at least she had some exercise. And of course, I would like to mention here that my two boys, my father-in-law could barely see. So they read the newspaper to him every day without fail for 2 years, or was it 2 to 3 years, because he couldn't read and he had to know the news every day. He didn't want to see the TV and listen to the TV or listen to the radio. He wanted the boys to read it every day. So, I mean, hats off to them, because for 45 minutes reading in a loud tone, because he couldn't hear any very well. I could hear them on the first floor from the ground floor. So, I mean, they, small things like this, when there's any problem with your helpers, you help them and you just put it aside. Like Priya said, you don't even remember, you just do an act of kindness and you put it aside. But these are the things that I wanted to mention.
Oh, they're so lovely, and hats off to your boys. And I think that is because of your great upbringing. You've done such a fabulous job. So, we do so many things the whole day. And, when we hear each other's stories, it just reinforces the belief. And then we just like get a kind of a jump start, that, oh my God, this is so amazing. We must do this more often. I'm sure we all do it. We do good
Yeah.
deeds and small acts, the whole day in some meager mean. But the whole idea is just get out of your own shell, look around. There is so much we can do. So thank you so much for sharing. It
Thank
was
you.
great. Who else would like to share?
Hi, Shilpa. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm not on the video,
No worries.
but that's okay. I've been listening to all the stories, and I think they're so wonderful. And it does resonate with me when you all say that money is not what really you need to give in. Even your little acts of charity can be just giving a smile. My very first memory, now that I was listening to all of you, of the happiness I got, and I've never forgotten that Sardaji, this was my first job in Oberoi Hotel in Kashmir. I jumped into it because I was running away from my studies, which I had just poured myself into the books, and the exams were over and I was told that there is an opening, and I said, yeah, I'm coming. I didn't even bother what I'm going to do, but I knew it was Oberoi Hotel. So I was staying in the vicinity because the hotel was pretty far away from my house. So every morning, I remember this guy also lived in the hotel, and he was a driver, the cab driver, and the cab belonged to the Oberois. So every time I would go to my office, I would meet him and I'd give him a smile. I was pretty young then. So after about a week or so, he said, "Beta, आपका smile इतना अच्छा लगता है, हमारा तो दिन बन जाता है." I have never ever forgotten that guy. Now I think about it, maybe there was something that changed his mental makeup the moment I smiled at him because I didn't know him. So that was the very first memory. There was another memory I get now is when I had come to Bangalore. I was quite new and it was not as crowded as it is now. So every time I drove down the road towards MG Road, it was just my car driving. Once I had just come out of my colony, Koramangala, and turned onto the main road on Hosur Road, I saw a guy, an old guy lying down with his foot bleeding away. A truck had run over. I just stopped dead. And I said, there's nothing. And fortunately for me, a friend of mine who lived down the road in my vicinity, I met her, Kiran. She was a good friend. So I said, Kiran, stop. So both of us, we got hold of two guys, got that guy into my car. Mine was a bigger car, so I made him to, and we were fortunately close to the hospital. Took him to the hospital. At that time, these guys were very, very, very particular, the doctors, that they had to have some kind of all that and signing. No, I didn't want to get into that. I didn't have the time. I was going shopping to Russell Market all the way because there were no shops in Koramangala then. So both Kiran and I, we handed him over to the doctors and said, if you don't mind, excuse us. And we just went. And I know that guy might have lost his blood and either laid there, maybe unconscious, or died. And that's the first thing, and I've never forgotten because somewhere inside, I think it made me so happy. And as you said, Shilpa, it does give you euphoria. I'll tell you a little incident now that I'm doing other things beside my business. I tried other things and I realized that there are few things you can do which are comfortable for you. One of them is that I'm teaching online English to a girl from Delhi. She's working with an NGO. And these are poor people who can't afford expensive colleges and education, but they can't get better jobs. Therefore, this NGO, it's called Salam, they have got all of women like us who teach online. So one day I was very stressed out, and I know after that I had this class with her at 8 o'clock. After I finished, when I started teaching, I know how it started relaxing me. I think it's just the act of doing something else for somebody.
Absolutely.
That's what gives you
Absolutely.
happiness.
That's what gives you happiness. In fact, I loved even the first story in which you just smiled. I always feel never lose an opportunity, never lose a chance to give someone a smile or say a nice word,
Yeah.
because maybe that's the only good thing that happens to him in the whole day.
Yeah.
We don't know what battles people are fighting. So don't lose the chance to give a smile, say something nice, and make someone's day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's so
Yeah.
lovely. Thank you so much, Kamini, for sharing your story.
It was great talking to you all.
Such lovely stories over here, but we have the clock also ticking. So I just want to end this with that in our bid to fight the coronavirus, we have increased our doses of daily vitamins. What we need is vitamin H for happiness. And for doing that, we need to increase the dosage of vitamin D for doing good for others. By vitamin D, the first thing that comes to our mind is the sun, a perfect example of giving, giving, and giving for centuries and asking for nothing in return. So I leave you with this thought: do something for someone, make someone happy. I promise you, you will be a happier person. So thank you so much for joining me today. A very special thanks to Dr. Saroj Thapa for sharing her inspiring journey with us. Wishing you loads of the happiness vitamin. And until we meet again, be happy, be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.